Each week on True Blue, I'll be joined by my longtime broadcast partner, Blaine Fowler, to get his thoughts and insights on the Cougars. Blaine and I also work together on a number of football and basketball telecasts on BYUtv. We welcome you back in.
Oh, it's good to be here.
What was it like for you when you reported to camp for the first time, as so many Cougars will come in later this week?
Well, as a freshman, there's a lot of nervousness, a lot of butterflies. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to be expected of you. You're worried about your conditioning test. You're worried about making new friends and all of that. And each year it gets a little easier to come to camp until finally when you're at the end of that, a guy like Matt Reynolds, there's no anticipation for Matt. He's trying to figure out how he can be a better leader. You know, he knows what's going on. It's very, very comfortable for him. And each year it gets a little more comfortable. But each year you get pretty jacked up to get the football season going.
Well, you came in as a quarterback, and you bump into this Jim McMahon. How did that go? What was that like for a young Blaine?
Well, I remember being very nervous. And one of the things that happens is the veteran receivers, sometimes they don't want a young guy to throw to them. so the young guys coming in that they're going to be throwing this year, they'll be a little bit nervous. And I remember going in the rotation with the quarterbacks, and it came my turn to throw to Danny Plater, who was an all-conference receiver and one of Jim's favorite targets. And I came up to the front of the line, and Dan looked at me, and he goes, and he steps, he puts a young guy in front of him. Came up another time, again, Danny Plater at the front of the line. He looks at me like, who is this guy? And finally, the third time I was going to come up, Jim McMahon stepped in front of me, and he said, "Hey, Dan, get up here." And as soon as Danny came up, he said, "Blaine, throw to Dan." And I thought, that's what a leader does. Yeah. That's what a leader does. A veteran guy, Jim McMahon, knew that I was nervous and said, "Hey, we'll take their nerves away. Dan, Blaine's throwing to you."
You also there was Mark Wilson around, and then Steve Young, and then you and Robbie Bosco kind of grew through the program together. Some guys to learn from.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember you come in and you take your conditioning test, and that's a big deal. And everybody always came in with a different mindset toward that. Now, Steve Young, he wanted to win everything. He wanted to set the tone by example. He wanted to win that conditioning test. Every drill we were in, he wanted to win. Jim, a little bit different. By the time he was a senior and had 70-some NCAA records, he just wanted to finish. I remember running around the track. He ran on the inside on the grass.
Well, you can do that, I guess.
Yeah, if you're Jim McMahon.
You got 70 records. Well, what about Jake Heaps now? He comes in. He was the leader, the starter for spring drills, finished the season, of course, the starting quarterback. It's his team now. How different do you expect Jake to be this fall?
This is a huge step for him. You always talk about teams being better between their first and second games. Well, when you come in to your second season as a quarterback, he'll have a completely different mindset. He knows that this is his team. He's had the majority of the reps through spring ball. He's been the guy all summer long in player run workouts. And so he's got a confidence about him now and an understanding of this offense that's going to allow him to take advantage of his physical skills. You know, last year, a lot of thinking was going on. And when you're thinking, you cannot react as quick. He understands the offense better. You're going to see him make quicker reads. He's going to get to his second and third receiver faster. He'll be a much better quarterback this fall.
You went into camp as the backup quarterback, so let's talk about Riley Nelson. Where's his head? What role can he have on this team?
Well, he has to have a role where he feels like he's in it and that he has to be ready to play. BYU's been very fortunate in terms of injuries. You know, you go back to the year with Matt Berry and those guys, they had a bunch that year, but they've been fortunate the last couple of years with Max and with John and even with Jake. Riley has to go in the mindset that I could be the guy in one play. So he's got to prepare. He's got to make sure that that team thinks that he's a leader. And I'll tell you, I have never seen him in better condition than he is right now. The guy looks like he could go out and play strong safety or wide receiver or running back. And he is a very, very good leader. A lot of guys look up to him. He's got to approach everything this fall like I am going to be the guy. Every rep I get in practice has to count. And if the starting quarterback goes down, he has to have the confidence that he can go in and play.
You go a step further. The third string, James Lark, there's a lot of folks that say, hey, this guy's got everything you need to be a successful quarterback at BYU.
You know, talking to Brandon Doman, he says that James may be the most talented quarterback he's seen in the program when you consider all-around skills. You know, Jake's got this tremendous arm and great mechanics, and Riley's this great physical athlete that can run around. James is probably a combination of the two. He can make all of the throws. He's a little more athletic probably than Jake Heaps is. And so here's this great player in that third position, but you never know. A few years ago, BYU needed 3 and 4 quarterbacks, and who can forget the year that Jackson Brown, as a fourth-string walk-on, ended up starting the Utah game. So you have to prepare even if you're the third guy, like you have an opportunity to play.
Go back to 1984 National Championship game. Bosco goes down, and you come in. You had to be ready.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a whole season. before you get in. And that's a difficult thing as a backup. As a backup at strong safety or free safety, you can get out on the field in special teams, and you're going to get opportunities to play. As a quarterback, you have to stay in the game. You've got to focus on what's going on out there on the field and help your starter. And it may be game 11 before you get in there, and you better be ready to go.
All right. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
We'll see you next Monday.